Who's ready to win the day in sports? I know you are. Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com, Monday through Friday, noon to 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm Justin Fensterman, and let's break everything down from a fantasy sports perspective. Good afternoon, everybody, or morning if you're not on the East Coast. My name is Justin Fensterman, and welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily here on the Elite Plus Network, powered by the good old FG FantasyGuru.com, where you can find all of my work. I generally host on Wednesdays, Ray Flowers on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, getting you caught up in everything, getting you ready for the day in sports, and letting you know what we have to offer. And speaking of things we have to offer, let's start out by talking a little football for everybody out there, because it's here and we got a lot of football that we're rolling out on our site next week. I'm very excited about that. I can't wait to get started. Already starting to compete in best ball drafts. I'm actually competing in drafts for the DAV on my own for charity and to help out our veterans out there with Memorial Day just passing. We always have to have our vets in mind. You could give me a follow on X and Instagram at Fensty Sports, FENSTY Sports. I'm going to be part of that content release for fantasy football at FantasyGuru.com. I lead up our NBA content, and I also dabble in football because everybody knows that they're ready to win their fantasy football championships. And whether it's DFS, wagering, or the season-long game, we have it all for you. And we've got a wide variety of analysts and bets that we put out there, because I know everybody very into prop betting for any of our sports, and we've got you covered right there, especially with fantasy football coming out. So make sure you go to that link that you're seeing here to get part of it and to make sure that you are part of all of the action, because we got a hell of a lot of content coming out this summer. It's going to be a lot of fun at FantasyGuru.com. Let's talk about what's on the agenda for today's show. It's great to see everybody out there per usual. What I do is I talk a lot of basketball generally on my streams, but that is actually about to end because with the NBA season setting, and I'll go over some futures here and there, but I'm going to start focusing on some of the other sports, said the football seasons, also what's going on with the MLB and strategizing. And that's why, for me, I want to make sure that we are giving you everything that you want, every piece of information that you can have so you can win the day. What's going on, Varsity? Justin hanging with me. That's our way to start the stream, bringing up a player who's now ruined a couple of bets for us. Thanks a lot, Varsity Justin. Happy Wednesday to you, too. Man, Andrew Nembhard was averaging over 14 points per game in the postseason. And then the last two games, it's kind of taken a dump when it comes to his shooting out of the mix right there. So at this point, when it comes to Andrew Nembhard, yes, I will be taking a little bit of a break. So going to take a break when it comes to betting Andrew Nembhard. We did, though, hit the Karl Anthony Towns prop last night. Karl Anthony Towns did everything he could in the Eastern Conference Finals, but the Pacers are just that good. And for those that are thinking, wow, what a major upset, the Knicks losing. It's not an upset. There's like a one-game difference between the two teams, and the Pacers are the second-best shooting team in the NBA. How are you going to stop a team that shoots 50%? It's them and the Thunder. So all this, oh my God, what a letdown. Yes, game one, watching the 14-point lead evaporate with 2 minutes to go. History, yes, but thinking that the Knicks were these overwhelming favorites, let's pump the brakes a little bit on that. Indiana shooting is just absolutely strong, and it's not going away. The Knicks caught a break in game 3 because they started to shoot poorly towards the end of the game, and it drew down the percentage. If the Knicks are going to have any shot to stay in the series, forget about coming back at all, the Pacers have to shoot probably 47% or less for the Knicks to be able to win, or the Knicks to be able to be up by 6 points for a consistent amount of time. So Andrew Nembhard did us well early on, but now we officially cooled off on him. So for me personally, when it comes to the Indiana Pacers, because I'm not going to be on with you tomorrow, at least on this show, I'm going to tell you where you are going to find me in just a second, but Varsity Justin got me hot early on because Andrew Nembhard is a better shooter than that. And I don't know why the Pacers aren't having him go off the curl and go right inside and take a bunch of mid-range jumpers. It doesn't make any sense. That's what he did in overtime in game one, and he was destroying the Knicks. And then what happens when you see a guard doing that? When you see a guard going inside the arc, pushing the defense back a little bit, all of a sudden they can start backing it up, and then they can hit the high percentage long-range shot. It's not that hard. It's just Indiana is loaded with good shooters. And so if it's not Nembhard, it's someone else. It's Nesmith with a bum ankle. So it's that's what Indiana brings. It's exactly what Indiana brings there. And let's see, Justin also says, Varsity Justin, yes, he did come through in a big way. Very good on Pascal Siakam. It's funny that Pascal Siakam just doesn't have a tough bone in his body when it comes to rebounding, especially on the defensive end, gets boxed out a lot. And that's a guy who has ups and should be grabbing more boards than he did. But Karl-Anthony Towns, it was at 21.5, and it just spoke to me, and we hit the over on that. Tony chiming in. I'm loving this. Keep them coming here. Even if you hate some of the bets that I'm putting in, even if you can't stand me right now, although we followed a bad streak with a good streak, so it's kind of evening itself out in the postseason. But let me know. Let me know what you're betting. Let me know what's been coming through for you, whether it's DFS or wagering. I'm all about it. I'm betting these things just like you, and it pisses me the hell off, just like it pisses you the hell off when these bets don't hit. So Tony's saying that, hey, what's going on, Tony? Obviously, the DFS, we still got it going on. I'm putting some of my plays. It's me and Serge Singh, who you've seen on this stream a few times. It's me and Serge kind of splitting the week and the weekend for that matter, giving you some plays. I'm kind of taking it more of a, hey, here's my lineup I'm building. I don't like to give just an example lineup like that. So I'll give pretty much a lineup that I'm putting together and just screwing around with, and then maybe 3 other floater plays. So for that in mind, I'm all good with that. And thank you very much, Tony, because with the showdown slates, you've got to strategize big time. Between these two series, I feel like the strategy for the captain spot is Towns in the Knicks-Pacers series. And I'll say it right now, and I'm not overplaying any hand because we're going to have Scott Bondar join me to talk not only about the Western Conference Finals and just playoffs in general as he does basketball content, but Scott is also the dong detector for fantasyguru.com. And we're going to dive into home run prop betting and a little DFS. But great comments yesterday afternoon with Ray. I doubled my bet last night. Keep up the great work. Tony, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. It means more to us, the appreciation, than you know. So thank you very much for your comments. And I'll continue to put some of those lineups and my favorite plays out there in our Discord. Make sure you check that out. And if you're building a lineup, make sure you tag me in Discord at Fensty, Fensty, and I'll help you build that lineup because it's not over. Not over till we don't have any more game action. And then when we don't have NBA game action, we have futures. If you were hanging with me and you are part of fantasyguru.com and you listen to my Fensty's Basketball Diaries podcast, which comes out every single week on the site. Note this week may come out Friday. We'll have to see when it's coming out. I'm trying to give you guys a little bit of fresh content post-game tonight. So I may even release it tomorrow. So it's going to be either tomorrow or Friday where the next chapter of the podcast comes out. So I talk a lot of pretty much what I talk about here, just a lot of X's and O's when it comes to the NBA, how to take advantage of the books, what to look at when it comes to these teams, who to stay away from, which I'm going to talk about a little bit today when it comes to fantasy, DFS, and betting. So that's really what I'm doing right now in that podcast. But over the summer, it doesn't take a break or anything like that. We talk a lot of futures. And I've heard from some of you in our Discord, whether it's the DFS NBA Discord or NBA betting Discord, that you guys did bet some of the futures that I talked about. And I'm going to make sure this time around to put them officially and tag everybody when I put an NBA future out there and not just talk about them in podcast or in general in conversation. But the win totals for the Cleveland Cavaliers, we had that over 40 at when it was 47.5. We had that over right away as soon as free agency happened. Then it moved up to 48.5. We talked about that. We had that as well, even when it moved up. That hit. The Houston Rockets, their win total pretty low, So we had the over on that, and that worked out really well. So this summer, I'm going to be focusing a little bit more, and I'll make sure any future that I'm putting out there when it comes to my own bets, or even just talking about casually, I'll make sure to tag everybody in the betting section of fantasyguru.com. Justin chiming in once again here. That knows nothing about deep ball, in my humble opinion. I appreciate it, Justin. But believe it or not, there are a few people and consumers in our space that feel like betting analysts, wagering analysts, fantasy analysts must hit 100% and never miss. That's why they're in the big position, right? The big chair placing the bets. It's not that easy. It's absolutely not that easy. Speaking of show notes, let's talk a little bit about Elite Sports Game Time, because Jeff Mans is off this week. He's on a little vacation, although he's not. While he's on vacation, he's hanging out in some nice weather, but also coaching breakdowns. That's what I'm seeing that he's writing about in Discord, that he's doing those coaching breakdowns. So while he's on vacation, he's not off. He's getting ready, gearing up for fantasy football with our content coming out next week. But Elite Sports Game Time filling in for our big sister Elite Sports Show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. We will not, me and Ray Flowers, we will not be on at the nighttime, 8 p.m. Eastern, regularly scheduled, but we will be 3 p.m. Eastern. We were yesterday, and we will be for the rest of the week, today, tomorrow, and Friday. Not only are we covering the live action when we have it, but we're also taking a dive into some fantasy football and talking some topics, just some players in general in our early drafts that we're looking to target, where we're seeing them going, talking about how to use ADP as a range and not necessarily the way. We're going to be talking different draft formats on tomorrow's show, but we're taking each skill position and we're dedicating a day to it. Yesterday, we did a lot of running back. So today we're going to do a little bit more towards the end of your drafts with running backs. But then we're going to dive into the tight end pool and talk about where we stand, if we can get away with not necessarily having to invest a top 3 or 4 round pick in the position, or if we must go after the top guys, and even some players on who to stay away from. So we're getting everybody ready. It's just to do these exercises, and we're going to do them, whether it's me, Ray, Jeff Mans. We're going to keep doing them again and again and again, so we get in rhythm. And yes, things are going to change as camps open up. Those players that are going to be written about by your favorite beat reporters out there to get those clicks, we're going to be talking about those players. I'm going to be talking about those players on this particular stream, because with NBA kind of going on ice for a little bit, I'm going to bring on some other of our analysts and talk about the various sports and other ways that you can win when you become part of the Elite Mafia at fantasyguru.com. So it'll be me and Ray. I will be giving a little bit more of a preview. I'm waiting before writing bets. I'm waiting on the odds to settle in a little bit more for this evening, but still talk a little DFS with all of you right now, and then we'll do it again on Elite Sports Game Time, which will air again 3 p.m. Eastern with Jeff on vacation. So let's spend a few minutes just talking about what's to come tonight in game number 5. It's very, very difficult for me to think that Minnesota is going to extend this series, and if they do, I don't see them extending it past 6 games. Minnesota's done a good job hanging out with OKC. But at the end of the day, OKC has more depth, more talent, better defense. And so that's why, for me, I'm starting to have this mindset that this series is ending tonight. I want more basketball, selfishly, but I think this is going to end this evening. So when it comes to DFS, I'm going to continue doing what I've been doing with our showdown lineups. And while a lot of people are going to be debating, you go Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Anthony Edwards, I'm going to go with who I would consider to be the glue guy on this Thunder team, and that's Jalen Williams. Can do a little bit of everything. He hasn't been rebounding as much as he was earlier in this series. Very capable of doing so. You know he's going to be playing deep into this game. He gets a good amount of time with the ball. But most importantly, when his shots are falling, he's just going to keep getting fed and fed and fed. And we've seen him take 20-plus shots, 18-plus shots in 3 of the 4 games, 20-plus in 2 of his last 3. And I like that. And being that compared, at least I'm looking on DraftKings, compared to some of the other guys here that they have here, you know that Jalen Williams is going to be utilized heavily here. But Anthony Edwards for that captain spot is almost $3,000 more expensive. You look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander too. I mean, that's another one where we're going to have to be careful. So for me, while everybody is going to be debating between the two big names, I'm going Jalen Williams, and then I'm going to also include Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I'm trying to figure out if there's a way I could still build with Anthony Edwards in there, but I trust SGA a little bit more than I do the Ant-Man. So I'm going Jalen Williams and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Then I'm going to be heavily visiting Minnesota because all of a sudden Dante DiVincenzo's starting to get a little bit of a groove on. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is someone that's been very good at fighting through screens and scoring quickly, and he's at minimum salary for tonight. So I'm going to be looking in that direction. I'm going to be looking at Naz Reid, although he doesn't really excite me as much. He excites me more for prop betting. It's become very hard to trust the center situation in this matchup because Isaiah Hartenstein and Rudy Gobert, for that matter, get schemed out if all of a sudden either of these teams want to run. And I can't really, even coming off a better game, I can't trust Rudy Gobert or Hartenstein for that matter. It was a choice game one. It's not even a choice. It's no contest anymore that I trust Chet Holmgren a lot more than Hartenstein. His minutes are a lot safer. And he scored 21 plus in 2 of his last 3. His rebounding has been a little bit up and down, and he's not my favorite option. But if I'm looking for someone in the mid-range, then he to me is the most trustworthy guy. But then you got to look at Jaden McDaniels too, who you know is going to be playing heavy minutes. Somebody else that can help guard the elbow, but more importantly than that, if it's not Anthony Edwards, if he's having a cold day, they're going to be really relying on Jaden McDaniels to hit mid-range shots because that's what he does, and he does a great job at finding open spots. He is always open. And whether it's Caruso switching on him, then he has the size advantage. Whether he has someone slower on him that maybe he can get to the spot before Chet Holmgren and his big body is there to block the hell out of him. So he's able to get more shots off of switches. So I'm actually going to be looking at Jaden McDaniels once again. And I'm trying to tell myself to maybe lean off his point prop, but that's one I'm considering. I've not written, like I said, any bets up at fantasyguru.com just yet because I'm just still trying to kind of figure out a few things. A few of you have already asked me, do we go back to Anthony Edwards rebounds? To me, I got to kind of think about that. I was actually looking at that shortly before I came on here because I really would love for it to go back down to 6.5. And it's not that. The books aren't going to do that. The books would probably, in their minds, according to their algorithms, be stupid to give us a 6.5 rebound line. But this is a guy that up till last game was averaging 13 rebounding chances per contest. He's in the vicinity. And let's not also forget that when you look at which teams are giving up the most rebounds to opponents throughout the playoffs, as good as the Thunder are, that is their one blemish. And as I continue to see this a little bit, it makes me wonder if the Indiana Pacers, who I'm feeling like are going to meet the Thunder in the finals, wondering if maybe I got to give Indiana a little bit more credit than I should. You see what the futures are right now, and Indiana's got the offense to match them. But the question is, can their defense stop OKC on the run? That's what I question with Indiana, but I think that would be a fantastic, fast-paced series. It would be, for those that are old school video gamers, it would be like the game Street Fighter Hyper Edition, because you've got both of these really, really fast teams. So if you played the Hyper Edition where all the characters are moving quick as hell in the fighting game, then that is what you're going to be looking at. It's very hard for me to have confidence in either the Knicks or the Timberwolves to bounce back in this series. Can the Knicks extend their series? Yes, I see, and you see it to their favor by 5. Can they extend the series to 6? Yes, but to think that Indiana would shoot under 50% 3 games in a row, and by the way, they don't lose back-to-back games. That's the other thing with them. So I think the Knicks could extend it, and that series resumes tomorrow. But beyond 6 games, I don't see it happening. And I see the Pacers moving on. Tonight, I want to give Minnesota a little bit more credit, but it's going to take OKC shooting around 40% for that to happen. They need to take a nosedive tonight. And we've seen it before. It normally doesn't happen more than one game, but I'll say this, even if OKC loses, I have them winning in Minnesota to move on to the NBA Finals. Clearly, you see where I'm at. Other players that I'm going to be focusing on for prop betting, I kind of want to look at Jalen Williams again. I don't know if it's going to be his RA or his rebounds. I'm still trying to figure that out, although he started to decrease just a little bit. So really with this series, because once I start missing bets in consecutive games in a series, I start to kind of lay off a little bit. Don't be surprised tonight if you see just one bet. And I almost didn't put the Nembhard bet in last night. Towns was going in all the way, but I almost didn't put the Nembhard bet in. And that's what happens when I lose the essential lines and I lose the vibe of the props and I start missing 1 game, 2 game in a row, then I start to lean off a little bit. So really for me, where I'm looking at props loosely at this point, yes, the Edwards rebounds I'm considering, but then there's Naz Reid, who I'm seeing has low lines. And for Minnesota to have to win, Naz Reid is going to have to score tonight. Naz Reid's going to have to score about 15 points, which even though he doesn't have a big DFS ceiling, if you showed me a lineup with Naz Reid to be a little bit different, I'm not going to hate that because the guy can grab a handful of rebounds. 6+ rebounds is not out of the question. 15 points tonight, also not out of the question. And Minnesota could have that one random game where they just dump it into Rudy Gobert, and he's magically Rudy Gobert from a few years ago. We saw it last series. But to me, they're going to need to run this series. So that's why, for me, I am going to essentially go and probably put a little bit more faith into Naz Reid. Bob, can I have $5? No, you cannot have $5. That's very interesting. Can I have $5? Give me $5, okay? Just for asking that. So the answer is no. I'm sorry about that. And with that in mind, let's talk a little bit of baseball because I don't get to talk baseball too much on Wednesdays, but also this guy's a basketball guy too and a college guy as well. And it is Scott Bondar. Give him a follow on X at Scott Bondar, and you can find all of his work at fantasyguru.com. And he is the dong detector of fantasyguru.com, coming up with a lot of home run props. Scotty B, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on? Do you have my $5?
I mean, seriously, people are asking me for money right now. Come on, dude. Where's my $5?
$5. Remember when footlongs used to be $5?
Oh, $5 footlongs. And then February, oh man, because February is also my birthday month. So just being, and I was a huge Subway guy, man. I'm guessing you were a Subway guy at some point too, correct?
Of course. The meatball subs when they were 99 cents were like peak. That was a life. That was a different world. It's just ridiculous now, but yeah. And the NBA playoffs tonight are looking as it could be over. We might have a 5-game finish. I'm not really good at segue like you, but 5 games. I think tonight it is an opportunity for them to close it out for OKC. So last night, I think we saw probably the end of the Knicks too. So I can't see these games going into the weekend. The finals start next Thursday. So that's going to be a long week of no basketball for you, Justin. So
yes. That's why I'm thinking maybe, if anything, if these series are extended, neither one to me is going 7. They'll end it. Both those teams will end it on the road in 6. But I'm with you, man. And Minnesota's played pretty well. And so with Minnesota playing pretty well, then it's just, to me, like they've done all they can do. And now for me, it's OKC's probably ending this thing. And it's become even hard betting this series because, especially in NBA and player props, because guys like Isaiah Hartenstein, I tried the other night to get the low point prop on him. And he started off well,
Yeah.
And because they were getting crushed, he got completely schemed out in the second half, and it's become a lot tougher.
Yeah, I mean, you really, it's unfortunate. Minnesota got here last year at this point. I think they're going to blow that team up. I mean, they tried to kind of upgrade Towns with Randall, but it just seems like they just can't get over the hump. Maybe it's a coaching thing. I mean, Denver got crazy at the end of the season. Memphis got crazy at the end of the season, firing their coach. Maybe it's just they need a new coach. But I think OKC is one of these teams where Washington is trying to do exactly what they're doing with all those draft picks. And just the Shai with them hitting that trade with the Clippers, I mean, that just put them next level immediately. I think a lot of teams, they took the San Antonio building standpoint. OKC is doing it. And as much as people are going to hate a potential OKC Indiana Pacers finals, I mean, it's an opportunity to see teams that have kind of built themselves through years of drafting and making deals. I mean, Halliburton, was a top 10 pick, but getting him, he was supposed to be the downside of that trade to get Sabonis for the Sacramento. And Sacramento hasn't done anything since that. And obviously Indiana has put some pieces together, and picking up Pascal Siakam last year in the trade deadline and keeping him on the offseason was a huge deal. I didn't think he was going to stay there. So it pays to kind of be patient with some of these teams, especially, we don't have a big market, but they have the ability to kind of get to where they, the pinnacle of the NBA at this point. The LAs and the Bostons who have paid for teams years after year getting these superstars, they just, maybe that's not the way to go anymore. I mean, the big three, they say, is not really the building point at this point.
Yeah, and we've seen those teams built in the past after a few years. The Warriors are a prime example. Pre-Durant, they were still winning titles. They were still succeeding, and they were fully home-built, homegrown. Mm-hmm. And adding a piece like, a veteran like an Iguodala was a perfect complementary piece and a top 10 guy. And then they later did that with Durant. So I'm actually would be very excited to see, as I said before, Thunder Pacers, because of the pace itself of the series, and Pacers top 10 defensive team too. I think we forget about that sometimes, but their defense is incredible. Aaron Nesmith fights through screens with the best of them, as great as any of the players in the league. He's that good. And I'm excited for that finals. And it sucks as someone for when it comes to like the New York Knicks, as much as personally I'd like to see them in the finals, they can't run with this Pacers team, man. The Pacers aren't going to take a dump shooting 3 games in a row.
No, I mean, they're just gassed. I mean, they did this last year, and the injuries hit them last year. And then this year, I just think he plays them so many damn minutes. I mean, it just kills his team for the long term. I mean, it's a shame. Indiana is definitely probably going to finish it out here. The crazy thing is Indiana is so improbable with all those wins. It's just, I think it's a team of destiny. You just have these teams that come through sometimes in the playoffs are just, I mean, to pull those things off against Cleveland and then turn around and pull it off against the Knicks as far as last minute wins, it's just something you really can't write and coach. It's just, they're a team of destiny at this point.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fun with those two teams. It'll be a very fun final. And for those that are disappointed, just give it 2 games and then you'll be hooked on it. I'm telling you, it's going to be some fun basketball for the title. But Scott, I'm also bringing you on because the people want to know early MLB slate is getting ready to start out. And you are as well the dong detector. So before we answer Tony's question, let me ask you, man, when it comes to, and I asked Ray the same questions about some of his bets he puts out, what goes in to your research for home run prop betting? How can we learn how to research properly, besides, of course, taking your picks so we can find gems of our own?
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't say researching dongs, because this is a kid's show. So,
yes.
So it comes down to a lot of things. I mean, when it comes down to pitching matchups, and I kind of explained it. I was on a stream one time, and it's a building process. And immediately right off the bat, you want to look at guys in the top 5 batting order. You're going to get more at bats. Typically, the guys are going to get at least 4, potentially 5, depending if they're the road team. So you have more opportunities at home run that day. Obviously, baseball, a 1 for 3 day is great for a batter. But 0 for 4 does happen to the best of them. The other thing we look at is the recent performances, last 14 days. I look at barrel percentage now that StatCast has become like a mainstream thing. StatCast with barrel percentages, barrels. A lot of guys have been using those torpedo bats, and you can kind of look at those players like Ellie De La Cruz had 2 home runs last night, and a guy that was an excellent opportunity to go deep just because of the ballpark. And that's another thing, the ballpark, the weather. Today we have rain throughout the 5-game slate early on. So I'm looking at ISO. Anybody that's over 200 ISO is kind of a highlighted area. If you're not hitting over 200 ISO in the last 2 weeks, I really don't look at you. And then the other thing is batted ball distance. I'm looking for guys that are hitting fly balls with a batted ball distance of over 250, 275 in that range. And that kind of narrows it down to certain players. Obviously, BVP is a factor in there. There's a whole potpourri of different mixture things. Even as narratives as easy as bobblehead night. I mean, birthdays, those guys like that. Sometimes you like to take shots on those. A couple weeks ago, it was Wyatt Langford night, bobblehead. He actually hit a home run in the 8th inning for that night. So there are little tricks in trade. The one thing I would advise, they're very high risk. You're not going to be throwing $100 on these things every single day. But a couple of our subs use them as plus total bases. For example, I had plus 2 total bases for Ohtani on Sunday and plus 1.5 total bases on Freeman. Ohtani took care of it with a home run right off the bat. So taking those type of bets, long-term winning, it's almost like a cash game. When you're betting these home runs, it's like winning a GPP, And again, I see there's a guy online. He's hilarious, but he'll bet like 15 home runs to become a millionaire. It's awesome. It's fun. It's a good gimmick, but 3 to 4 maybe max if you're going to run them in parlays. The question, I do love the fact that he has the Annabelle Akers. That's pretty hilarious. I like Duran today. So Duran has the 4th highest and in MLB, as well as the top recent hard contact, as well as fly ball percentage. And he hasn't hit a home run yet. So he's to me, he's like in that bubble that's going to explode to be a home run. I do like Rooker. He's the same situation. He has a good matchup against Lance McCullers, who's given up more home runs against right-handed hitters in his career and obviously recently. So that's the reason why those 2 guys are on there. I could put 17 guys on the dong detector if I wanted to. I mean, I try to focus in on 2 guys that will also be great DFS players, but also the plus total bases as well as that home run prop. So
it's interesting with Duran because Duran's only hit just 4 home runs this year. Now he's still hitting well, but here's the interesting thing. While he's only hit 4 home runs, he's had a lot of multi-hit games lately, Scott. So he is hot going into it. So it's not always those chalk guys trying to find those trendy hitters. I'm seeing 4 multi-hit games in his last 5. I mean, he's hot right now.
Yeah, and he's almost like the lack of a better word, due. Devers was like that. I mean, obviously he came out the gate and then he just exploded. And I think my son and I were laughing because I have the one thing with my picks, they're usually a day late. And my son's been picking them and he's been like, oh my God, a day late. So you just kind of stick with them. I kind of went with Matt Olson a lot this past weekend. And he ended up hitting a couple based off of that. So these guys get close. They have trends just like everything else. So that's my advice. You kind of stick with those guys over the series that these batters are going to be sitting in. So.
Let's talk a little bit about the DFS slate because we've got games starting all over the place. And by the way, I'll be covering these games live with Ray Flowers on Fantasy Sports Radio 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. So let me ask you, Scott, when it comes to pitching, are you someone, because I know it's different on FanDuel and DraftKings, with DraftKings having the 2 pitchers, but especially particular for FanDuel, do you find yourself spending up for pitching more, or do you try to go dumpster diving to save some value, or is it truly slate dependent?
It is slate dependent. That's the easy answer. But for smaller slates, I want the security, so I'll pay up for a guy. The quality starts are so big nowadays. when it comes to FanDuel. It doesn't happen very often in Major League Baseball as much as it should. A lot of these guys are only going to hit 5 and then get out of there. So, but on DraftKings, or sorry, on FanDuel, the larger slates, I kind of find the look for the lower value guys, so I can kind of fit bats, because in those slates, typically your bats are spread out, a little bit more even when it comes to like your higher up guys, with the exception of 1 or 2. So you can make more of a stack, and you can actually add more bats, so by paying down on the larger slates. But the small slates like today, I mean, Pablo Lopez was the guy that's kind of stuck out immediately. It looks like there are weather issues across the board, except for that Milwaukee game, which should be inside with the roof closed. So those are the guys I'm looking at, because there's really not too many pitchers today that are early. Since they didn't put the Mets game on there, even though they moved the game earlier against the White Sox.
Let's talk about some teams that you're maybe looking to stack for this early slate. I mean, again, it's not a huge number of teams that you have to choose from here. I mean, for you, do you find yourself on these smaller slates trying to still team stack, or if not even team stack, let alone game stack?
Yeah, I think you can look at the Dodgers and the Red Sox today early on. I do like the fact that the Red Sox are in Milwaukee. Peralta's a tough pitcher. The roof will be shut. Left-handers hit well in there, and that's kind of why I'm looking at Duran. I mean, Devers is another option in that ballpark. As far as the Dodgers, I mean, Ohtani is just your easy play. And if you're not paying up for Ohtani, I think kind of sprinkling some value bats in there, guys that maybe like your 7, 8, 9. Freeman has been unbelievable this year. He's a guy that, if you can't pay up for Ohtani, Freeman I think fits, especially on FanDuel, a little bit cheaper. Position eligibility with Ohtani kind of makes it nice with him at first base and outfield on DraftKings. But those are the two teams I'm looking at. I mean, with the small slates, I'm concerned about the weather in Detroit and Cleveland. But I'm fine with the Dodgers, being there. Left-handers have hit really well too in that ballpark. There's some weird wind tunnel that Cleveland made by making certain things, building a certain way. So left-handers have been hitting very well in Cleveland. So,
who are some of your favorite for DFS? And again, we're talking about, because I know it could be a little confusing here, there are multiple slate breakdowns, and we've got a lot of coverage going on at fantasyguru.com. Scott heading up a lot of that baseball coverage with Ray Flowers. It's a big baseball team that we have there. You're seeing bets put out there, and also Ted Schuster, Phil Backert, part of that team. So Scott, it's almost like you got an entire field of teammates here as part of the baseball crew at fantasyguru.com, man. Who are you looking at from the value side?
Yeah, big shout out to Chris Rose, Brett Rojo. Those guys have kind of, taken up some of the articles too. I do love the fact that Ray has kind of like hybrided his seasonal DFS into betting. I mean, if you don't have the subscription to Fantasy Guru, Ray Flowers, they call him the Oracle for a reason. I mean, the way he's kind of broke it down to basically the minor thing, and betting is not new. It's new to him. I mean, he hasn't been betting. This is his
second year, Scott. And I tell him all the time, I'm like, dude, and he's like, yeah, I mean, I went like 2-1. I'm like, dude, you went 2-1. Be freaking proud. Stop making like, oh, you need to be 85%. Like when I last checked in with him for the season, record-wise, I don't know at the end of the day units, but record-wise, he was at like 63, 65%. And he's just like, it's okay. I'm like, no, that's not freaking okay. That's good. And that's why I'm trying to like freaking on these shows sell the hell out of Ray's betting, because so many people know Ray as the season-long guy. And Ray really wants to be known as just the season-long guy. He has really gotten into the betting, and you're starting to see more versatility in his plays.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's pretty impressive. I mean, I actually asked him a seasonal question the other day in DMs for a trade, but we're getting sidetracked. But today I like Lawrence Butler. He's leading off for Oakland. I think the fact that, he's got really good reverse splits today. He's cheap on DraftKings. He's 4,100. So I think you can get him in there when you're squeezing, if you want to play Ohtani. I mentioned Ohtani. I mean, there's really no less than an explanation. I mean, he's got 431 ex-WOBA over the last 14 days. Ex-WOBA is basically him hitting doubles, what they should have been. So if if you've watched the last couple of days, he's hit leadoff home runs. So no easy explanation to use him. One other guy I do like though is Colt Keefe. He's batting third for the Tigers today. He does have 4 home runs in May. I think he's getting a little bit hot. He's about 270 the last couple of weeks. So I think he's an opportunity batting third in that lineup. He should be fine. He's very much a value play. He's eligible for first and second base on both sites, I believe. So those are some of the core guys I'm looking at. I think a lot of the stuff in for the main slate is going to be handled by Brett Rojo. He should be sending it out. I did do the cheat sheet. I like LA Dela Cruz tonight. Always in Cincinnati. I mean, that ballpark, if you're stacking, it's always those games up there in Cincinnati, especially after the rain. That's the key. Once it rains, it gets really, really humid there. The river's right there. Home runs are perfected. I mean, they're amazing there, and runs scored. So if you're taking the total bases, the overs, those are ideally the things I look at when you're looking at ballparks, especially in Cincinnati during the summer as we get hotter.
It's funny, man, because I kind of thought it like worked the other way. Like if it's drier, if it's humid, it'll maybe bring the ball back inside. I guess if it's warmer, no, it'll make it fly more now that I'm thinking.
Yeah, Baltimore's another one. I mean, when we get up here, I mean, you're obviously around the corner for me. It gets humid, and when it gets humid in Baltimore, the balls fly. And that's another ballpark, left-handers, it just shrinks. And there's a mathematical thing. I think it's like 75% to 80% to 85 to 85%. The ball goes another 20, 30 feet just because of the humidity. And that's why Coors, not only is it thin air, but when it's humid there in Denver, it just lights out. I mean, it's the only sport I saw a comedian say the only sport where a baseball field is completely different everywhere, and it doesn't make any sense to me. I always wondered why you would have a gigantic wall in Boston, a short field in a gigantic field in Oakland. You know, it's all random. But like he said, you know, what if we went to Chicago and the basketball hoops were 14 feet high?
Right.
We went to the Knicks and it was 5 feet high, or you couldn't shoot 3-pointers in Denver or something, you know, because the air was too light. It just doesn't make any sense why baseball is like that, but it is. And if you're into baseball, you're into math, and that kind of goes back to what I talk about the dong detector. It's all math, and once you kind of figure out the way the math kind of fits into your equation and how you're picking, you're looking at math problems more than you're looking at baseball players themselves, just because it's launch angles and all that stuff.
One of the things we love to do on the show is when a player hits a home run and it's a shorter home run, we like to see, and I'm sure you do as well, you probably nerd out with this stuff. We like to see how many of the different ballparks around the MLB that would actually be a home run in, and nothing pleases Ray more that when it would just be a home run in like 2 of the 30 or whatever. He thinks it's the funniest thing. And
Yes.
It is kind of hilarious because of what you just mentioned. It is like changing the dimensions of a basketball court in OKC compared to Indiana.
Yeah, it's really crazy. Did you see the Onel Cruz home run the other day? He hit it 122 miles per hour. It went 432 feet into like the river right there. I don't know, Shenandoah River, whatever it is up there in Three Rivers. And it would have been out in every ballpark, but he was ridiculously how hard he hit that thing. So yeah, I mean, ballparks like San Francisco, maybe the right-handers don't really hit home runs that hard. And I think Ray probably knows this fact. I think a right-hander's never hit a home run into McCovey Cove over there.
Oh, wow.
It's some weird fact. Check that with Ray. I think that's correct.
I'll ask him that. I'm going to ask him that on the show today.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think that's never happened before.
Wow. They've never hit it into the bay or whatever it is?
No,
Damn.
no.
That's crazy. Weird, these little like factoids and stuff like that. That's why I like, you know, when you presenting them, and even Sarah Langs, who's excellent with those factoids and those specific stats on Twitter. It's excellent. Scott, what do you got coming up at fantasyguru.com over the next couple of days?
Oh, next couple of days, man. So I usually cover the weekends on baseball. I have a couple. I think I have tomorrow too for the cheat sheet. And then the one thing we have shooting out, we're looking. I know the big NCAA 26 is dropping tomorrow for those video gamers, but the college football team is actually getting ready in June. First week of June, we're dropping our transfer portal conference beefing up. I think we're calling it the conference upgrades, maybe. It's basically tracking all the players that have hit the transfer portal. Mike, myself, Chris Rose, Mike the Beard. We're going to have weekly breakdowns of the DFS impact that these players are making that have transferred to new schools. So we do that. It's going to be all the way up until the start of the season. We cover every conference, every big name that has went from the SEC to the Sun Belt Conference or from the Sun Belt Conference to Big Ten. We break that down. I got my Ohio State Buckeye hat on right now, defending championships. Is what we're going to try to do up there in Columbus. But each one of us are going to dive right into that. And, as you know, Monday, it's football season, June 1st. So we're already got our helmets tightened up. We're going to get our chin straps on. And I know Mike and I are excited to get college football going. So I'm sure the guys here at Fantasy Guru are going to have everything you need for seasonal DFS betting. Armando, Jeff Mans, these guys are all into it. I know Tyler was on the other day talking about best ball last night on your Game Time. I think that was 2 nights ago. So it's definitely something that we take a lot of pride in here at Fantasy Guru, and we have an exceptional team across the board, including NFL and college football.
Scott, you cover basketball, baseball, college football. You do the triple option stream every Friday during the college football season with Chris Rose and Mike the Beard, which I tap into as well, because for me, when it comes to all the sports, major or minor, college football has always been on the weaker side for me. So that's why on a Friday night, even when I'm chilling out, I'm just hanging with you guys too. And I always say the vibe with the podcast that the stream you guys put together, it's cool. It's just like friends shooting the breeze and just getting ready for the college slate. So, man, I'm excited for that. I'm excited for your series that's coming out, dude. And with that in mind, again, thank you so much for joining me. You've got the content up at fantasyguru.com for today's slate, including the Don Detector, who's going to hit home runs for the day. Give Scott a follow at Scott Bondar on X. Make sure you follow all of his work, fantasyguru.com. My work, fantasyguru.com as well. Ray Flowers will be back on the stream tomorrow and Friday. Again, we'll be filling in for Jeff Mans. Will be the Elite Sports Game Time Show, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. We will track the live action and with the plays that Scott Bondar put together for the DFS slate breakdown. We'll also preview the later games too. And I got your basketball preview. I'll go a little bit more in depth on the show. For Scotty B, I'm Fensty. It's Fantasy Sports Daily right here on the Elite Plus Network, powered by fantasyguru.com.